The following video was sponsored by the Greek American Heritage Society of Philadelphia, preserving and perpetuating our community's history.
My name is Nick Yiantsos, and I am the president of the Greek American Heritage Society of Philadelphia. In conjunction with the Pan-Macedonian Association sponsoring this video, it is my honor to introduce you to three of the Supreme Presidents of the Pan-Macedonian Association. They are my mentors. I admire them for what they have done, for leaving their families behind in order to go and seek a noble cause. To my left there in the middle, by order of how they became past Supreme Presidents, we have Mitoulis. Then to my left of that, we have Andreas Bouikidis and Dr. George Ahtaridis. Καλησπέρα σας, παιδιά.
Καλησπέρα, Nico.
Panagi, how about if we start with you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your background, how you immigrated, and all that fun stuff.
My name is Panagis Mitoulis. I was born in Ahtaridis, Kozanis. I served in the Greek army as an officer, and I immigrated to Congo, Belgium, Congo. And from Belgium, Congo, I immigrated to the United States in Christmas of 1974. In 1975, right away in January, I became a member of the Pavlos Melas in Philadelphia. I remember vividly, Carlos called me, you come here and you are a member of the Pan-Macedonian Association. I continue to serve on the Pan-Macedonian Association for years, and in 1972, in the convention in Greece and Thessaloniki, I became fourth vice president to study the youth of Pan-Macedonian Association. On that convention, tell you what happened. I was a person that makes trouble in the convention, and one of the past Supreme Presidents say, "Πάρτε αυτό το κατσίκι και βγάλτε το έξω."
Thank you, Panagi. That was wonderful. That's a good story. Andrea?
My name is Andreas Bouikidis again. I was born in Ahtaridis, Kozanis. In 1950, I joined the military by going to Non-Commissioned Officers Academy in Patras. And after 17 years, in 1966, May 11th, I resigned from the army. And I had all my papers ready. And June 26, 1966, I arrived in America with a wife, Andreas Bouikidis, and my two daughters. In September 1966, I was drafted as secretary of Pavlos Melas. And then after 3 years, I became president of Pavlos Melas. And in 1978, I was drafted again. I didn't even know anything. My kumbaro told me I have to go to New York. They needed me, and I was drafted as secretary of the Pan-Macedonian Association, United States and Canada. And then I became president, and I still help as much as I can in my age.
Ευχαριστούμε, Andrea. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Γιατρέ μου?
Yeah, my name is George Ahtaridis, and I came to the United States in June of 1972. Few years back, really, thinking about that. So the reason for coming here was to get training in medicine. I was already a physician at that time. So I came for training here, and then I went through the basic training of internal medicine, and gradually the training for gastroenterology. The first time I came in touch with people from Macedonia, and this was my home country. I was born in Thessaloniki, I was raised in Veria, was in the late 70s. At that time, I met these guys here that you see, and I'm honored to have them as past Supreme Presidents. And I met a lot of other people in the chapter of Pavlos Melas. And Pavlos Melas was one of the biggest Macedonian chapters here in Philadelphia, but also in the United States. Very important people, very good guys, extremely nice. I really was touched by their interest and by their love that they showed to me and also to my family. Subsequently, I became member, of course, of the chapter, and then president of the chapter of Pavlos Melas here in Philadelphia.
Another question that I always wanted to ask you personally, that I've never really took the time when we were together at the various conventions and so on, was what does it mean for you to be Greek? Truly the essence of what it takes, the pride and so on. Different people answer this question differently. How about you, Panayi, first, and then we'll go with Andrea. Andrea was ready to jump in and answer the question because I see the smile that he has. So by all means.
When I tried to get the papers, to be an American citizen, it was a questionnaire. And the guy told me, if the American have a war against Greece, you're going to fight for Americans or for Greece. And I tell the guy, I says, look, I serve as a Greek officer in the Greek army. You ask me to be a traitor? I will never be that.
That's very, very interesting.
That's what
I bet you if you ask the same thing with your kids, that thing changes a little bit and so on.
Right.
So,
yes.
How about you, Andrea?
Well, I was asked the same question when I went over to become an American citizen. And I told him, you don't have to worry about it because the United States and Greece, they were always on the same side. And he says, no more questions, sign, and I became. Also, you ask for Greece, what means? For me, Greece means everything. 6 months ago, I was asked the same question by some same people for different reasons, and I told them everything.
Ευχαριστώ, Ανδρέα.
Να σε καλά.
Με πάθος, με αγάπη και πόνο. That's beautiful. Πάθος, αγάπη και πόνο. Γιατρέ μου.
Nico, yeah, I consider myself as very lucky to be born in Greece and be a Greek citizen. And also, it's not only the history that we have behind us and that we're proud of, it's also the present that again showed us that we're very capable in dealing with the crisis, dealing with any kind of issue that we have in our country. In addition, I feel something, guys, that it's very important, and I noticed this very many times in the recent past, but also earlier in my life, that when you are Greek, everybody looks at you in a different way. Everybody knows about ancient Greece. Everybody knows about philosophy, about civilization, about democracy, and so on. And everybody knows about the islands, of course. They have good time there. They go and they spend a lot of many days. But it's as I said before, I consider myself lucky to be born Greek.
The next question that I have for you that I always want to ask you is, how do you keep your heritage alive, and how are you planning to pass it to the future generation?
When I first came here to the United States, days after that I started teaching the Greek school, at the church. I was teaching there for almost 5 years, Greek language. Then, when I started organized the youth of Pan-Macedonian Association, I had to organize χορευτικά συγκροτήματα, and I brought from Greece stoles for the youngsters. Continue on my life in the United States, I started bringing concerts from Greece. This is one way to keep the young people the Greek heritage, to listen to the Greek songs and to dance and all that. I think that's one of the biggest accomplishments of my life, teaching the young people to learn the Greek songs and dance.
Γιατρέ μου.
Yeah, the language, I think it's one of the most important factors that defines a generation, an ethnicity, and so on. And there's no question that by teaching the Greek language to our kids, to the youth of the Macedonian Association, contributed to this feeling of them like being Greek Americans. And again, I'm proud that my children, all my children, speak the language very well, the Greek language very well. And also, I remember when they were involved with the Macedonian Youth Association, I was following them. We're going to several places for dances or for other meetings with other youth members. And they were so happy to speak the Greek language. And now when I see the youngsters that now they are fathers and so on, they are 40 years old or 50 years old, like you, Nico. I'm so glad to speak to them in the Greek language. And I'm proud also that they understand the Greek language.
Andrea, we go to you.
The main thing I did when I came to America, I never allowed my kids to speak English in my house. I told them, you have all day in school to learn the English language. And at home, I cannot hear you when you speak English. And I still tell this to my grandkids. Besides that, in 1981, I had taken from the Pan-Macedonian Association youth 91 children. I took them to the Greek YMCA. I took them to place in Greece where all the youth going during the summer for camping. And I requested that they are not with, I requested to spread these kids in all the small groups so they cannot speak English when they are with the other group. And secondly, for my family and my kids, every year I used to send them to the camp, and I also requested that they don't stay with kids that they can speak English. All Greek.
We'll move on to the next area of discussions, which I'm very much so interested. How did you start in order to get pulled into the national level, and me coming and following you and mentoring, being mentored by you as a national youth president, that's when you were the supreme president. What enticed you to go from the local chapter to the national chapter and go all the way to the White House with all the activity that we had back then when the name Macedonia came out?
Yeah, Nico, I saw when I was a member of Pavlos Malas and then president, of course, of Pavlos Malas, I saw what the Pan-Macedonian Association was for. And, we found out at that time that it's not only to organize all the societies and keep them under one umbrella, all the Macedonian societies in the United States and Canada, but also there was another role of the association. And I think that was one of the most important roles. The role of teaching the history to Macedonians, even us, and in general to Greeks, Greek Americans, but also teaching the history of Macedonia to the Americans and other people, other ethnicities, to find out what the truth about the history is. And at that time I felt that I had to continue being a member, and then subsequently I had the honor of serving this association for 3 years as Supreme President from 1986 to 1989.
I will come back to that because I just remember now the symposium that we had at Columbia University with the name Macedonia, with a lot of experts and so on. I really feel that it's a topic that we'll discuss in 1 minute, but I don't want to cheat my friends here of their question of how they moved on from a local chapter to the national chapter. Andrea?
One day I had a call from my kumbaro, Mitoulis, Supreme President then.
Oh, that's how it worked out. So he's the reason why you were pulled into this.
President or,
I was
or
president. I
president?
was president, yes.
And he says, I want you to come with me tomorrow to New York. I said, should we take our wives with us? He says, no, because we're going to be very busy. There is a meeting over there, and somebody wants to see you.
That's a perfect setup.
Yes.
Perfect setup. I always like that. Go
And
ahead.
when I went, I sat in the corner and I started, listening first time with the Pan-Macedonian Association meeting in New York. And at one time he says, now we are coming to the point that where we should talk about the new secretary. We lost the other secretary. And he says, I have a new member from Philadelphia, and I'm sure everybody one day will be very happy for bringing him here. He says, I nominate Andreas Bouikidis for Supreme Secretary. I jumped, he didn't tell me anything. And he says, somebody says, do you accept? I stayed like that and I said, yes.
You didn't know what you were getting into.
I loved it. Like they say, trava me kaskleo in Greek. So I accepted, I worked with my kumbaro for the rest of the year.
Very hard.
Yes, and then I didn't know too many things. And then my dear friend, Steve GAHSP became Supreme President, and I learned a lot of things from Pete. But I learned more things because I was with him for 2 years from Steve GAHSP.
I will come back to a question, which was your most influential Supreme President when it came to how you function and how you integrated into the national chapter.
Yes.
Panagi, how did you make the transition?
I continue from the story I says before in 1972 when they say take that katsiki and throw him out. I get up and I says, it's how many katsiki like me it's on this, on this convention, because everybody was white hair like I am today. And on the end, they, everybody says, no, don't take him out. And they make me Thor, vice president, responsible to organize the youth. And that's where I started, I work. And on the 1972, 1973, I had the first chapter of the youth organization, Philadelphia, New York, Rochester, Syracuse. I had the first convention of the youth in New York. It was 350 youngsters in New York, and Archbishop Iakovos talked to them, and I have Joe Georges also talk to them. And then they continue. I was vice president again for the youth in 73, 74, and the end of 74, they promote me as Supreme Vice President.
They elected you.
They elected me as Supreme Vice President. And then on the end of that year, not the end, but on January of that year, Dr. Klaros was the president and died. And I, sworn to Supreme Vice President in 1975.
I guess the other question that I would like to ask you here would be, just like you inspired me to become a better Hellene, better Macedonian, and get involved with the national chapters, who inspired you from the national level that you thought, I want to be like him? I'll start with Dr. Ahtaridis.
Before I became a president, I had as examples of supreme presidents the local supreme presidents like Mitoulis and Andreas Bouikidis. They were my friends. I knew how they were thinking. I knew their activities. I knew how much time they spent for this organization, and they were, let's say, the examples of the supreme presidents. For later, of course, after I became president, there were other people that are in my mind, but anyway, that's a different topic. Thank you.
Panagi?
I was very young, when I became Supreme President, when I got involved with the Pan-Macedonian Association. And the guy really influenced me was Bill Daniels.
Bill Daniels?
Yeah, from New York, yes.
I barely met him. I heard a lot about him.
Yeah, it was really one of the Supreme Presidents. It did a lot for the Pan-Macedonian Association.
Thank you, Panagi. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's,
May his memory be eternal because he passed on.
Yes, best.
Andrea?
I didn't have time to know somebody until this man over here drafted me. So I had to follow his steps. And I say this because I love him, but I learned a lot of things because the time was very short that I spent with him as his secretary. He was calling me at 7 o'clock at night. I have to send a letter tomorrow morning. That letter was on the mail by 12 o'clock the same night. Same, because I love the job I was doing. I never ask for anything unless I like to do it, because δεν παίρνω ποτέ, παρένθεσης ελληνικά, δεν παίρνω ποτέ μια δουλειά να την κάνω εάν δεν μου αρέσει, and you can translate it, and I want to give 100% of myself when I have something to do. Same thing with Steve GAHSP. But Steve GAHSP, he was the only one. I still call his name. I call him if I have a problem, if I need an advice now that I'm almost 80, 3 months to be 80. And I ask, so Steve GAHSP was the man that I learned a lot of things.
And the next question that I want to have is, what was one of those memorable moments that we influenced the Greek government, the American government, influence each other, so this way να κάνουμε επανάσταση?
Yeah, I believe, that's my impression at least, that maybe until the mid-80s or late 80s, we're probably living between them in our association and basically not being in touch so much with other Americans or so much with the Greek government, because the Greek government also probably didn't understand the whole Macedonian so-called issue. So the first time, and this is something from my presidency, and I still consider this one of the best things that we've done, was what we call the symposium at the University of Columbia. And that took place in June of 1989. After long preparations, we were able to have 1 week of lectures, discussions, and the lectures and discussions were not just between us. There were about 75, I can't recall the number, people that participated in this symposium, in these lectures, and they were professors of colleges, and they were professors of high schools, and they were history professors. So we invited them to come and listen to these lectures, which were given by 6 Greeks, scholars in archaeology, historians, and so on, who came specifically for this thing to Colombia, and also by 6 Americans.
Yes, I remember somebody from France. I remember some other individuals there. They were from around the world.
So this was one of the best things that ever happened, just getting the message outside the Greek-American world about the history of Macedonia and what we are and so on, and why we believe that this is the right way to go. After that, I remember that at that time it was Mr. Pandermalis came to the symposium, and he was the leader of the Greeks, the Greek archaeologists and the historians that they came, and then he also got involved with our society, so with our association.
So that was a turning point.
The first time
Oh, interesting.
Mr. Pandermalis came here and he was involved with us. And after that, of course, the things turned around. He became a member of the Greek Parliament or the European Parliament. I don't remember exactly what it was. And subsequently, he was also involved by the Alexandrion, in the affairs of Alexandrion. And of course, Mr. Mitoulis was the main factor in this thing. But again, this was extremely important symposium. It was the people from all the societies, the Macedonian societies responded very well. So whatever monies we spent was generated by us, by the members.
I gotta mention something here because Mr. Yankopoulos and I, we started that, and I was involved with something else,
Right.
and then we pushed Dr. Ahtaridis to go through with it.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about your most memorable or the most influential moment of the Greek or American government as far as this society is concerned.
Well, you know, we've done a lot of it for this to influence the Greek American. First of all, these conventions we do in Greece. When we do the conventions, we visited the Greek government, you know, the officials, the president, and everything else, and we give us, you know, the change to tell them what we feel about it. And then we did another thing here to influence the United States. Yeah, that we did influence the government of the America. And then the visitation on the senators and congressmen here. What we do as a organization, we try to influence the United States. It's a lot of things, you know, the organization did, and then we started to send telegrams and letters. All that influenced the Greek government and the American government.
Andrea?
Dr. Ahtaridis, yes, influence. 1992 in Washington, yes, big influence. Even we had the Archbishop Iakovos over there. But all the rest of the years, except 1981, when Karamanlis came and he was the keynote speaker for our convention in Thessaloniki, was the first time he called the Skopjans. He called them
Falsification of the history.
but he spoke in Greek, and he says, «Οι πλαστογράφοι της ιστορίας της Μακεδονίας». And everybody came to me and they say, now they recognize you, what you're doing, and now will you start taking a big place in the front of the Greek politicians. Any other year, nobody was interested. They did not like us. They said we make the politics and we should not get involved. We went to Washington. We went to Mr. Bradimas to see them in groups. I happened to be on that group. We came to see him. It was Easter, right Easter. And he says to me, σε μένα ήρθατε να μου πείτε τα προβλήματα της Ελλάδος. You came to tell me about the problems in Greece. And I said to him, no, we didn't come to tell you this because we know you know it. We came over here to say to you, Christos Anesti.
So basically they did not realize, for political reasons or other reasons, they did not realize that there was an issue with the name of Macedonia until 1981, the convention in Thessaloniki.
First time επίσημα.
So I guess we were talking from out here, from United States, but they were not taking us seriously until the issue became a major issue. Hellenism in America has changed a great deal from the days of the first immigrants to today, where we're dealing with third, fourth, and sometimes fifth generation of Greek Americans. I will turn my question to Panayii Mitouli and ask him the same exact question that I think I asked to many of us, which are older, and I consider you much more philosophical, much more intelligent in the direction of this organization. What do you think would be something that the youth needs to pay attention to in order to promote and continue Hellenism in the United States?
I think if the youth study what we left them and see what we did, the youth should continue to do and go after our work, what we left for them. I think we did a lot for the organizations, we did a lot for the churches, we did a lot for everybody, for the language, for everything else. I think the youth should start at the elders and go back and do what we did.
Γιατρέ
This organization has been in existence for about 60 years now and offered a lot of things to the Hellenism in America. But one of the missions, because this organization has a lot of missions, but one of the missions is the so-called Macedonian issue. And I think we should continue pushing our ideas and our plans, let's say, for this issue to the people here in America, the politicians, to the Greek government, and so on. Also educate our kids about the history of Macedonia. Of course, besides this, we have to continue getting all the younger people into this or into these organizations, continue our work. Probably it's not going to be the same thing that we did 40 years ago. 40 years ago, we used to send letters to everybody. Now we just send emails, and I know it's probably easier to conduct the business of these organizations. But there are always ways, there's something that we have to adjust, and I suppose this is the task of the youth, to adjust and continue our mission.
Andrea,
Well,
closing comments, what do you think? You're very passionate. We love the passion that you have. We love the way you portray and you deliver your messages.
100% agree with Dr. Ahtaridis and Mr. Mitoulis, my kumbaro, about the youth, but we have to work very hard for the youth to change some things, to see how can we bring more youth into the organization, into this big thing that we did a lot of work. It has a big history, and we should not let it go down, you know. But what this Greek American Heritage Society started, we should wholeheartedly, I'm saying this, we have to support and join this thing, not as Pan-Macedonian Association, because it's gonna, things, you know, will not go the way I think about it, but we, the older people, should join and help this thing to get good roots. If you get good roots, like the tree, when you put a tree, when you plant the tree, you gotta put some things to keep it from not going down with a little wind. That's what I'm saying, and I'm, you know, 100% with exactly the way they say it. We should sit, the older people, and then we go on the side and sit and keep an eye on them, like the ancient Greeks used to say, "Ames de gesometa polokarones." We should not get involved, but stay. They used to put them up on the stadium, and all the way on the top, like the stadium, and then they just keep an eye, help them without getting involved too much.
I want to thank all three of you for coming out today, taking time away from your busy schedule. I know it was very tiring. I got emotional a couple of times here. Thank you for sharing your stories, and enjoy the rest of your day. You will always be remembered as, in my heart, three hierarchies, the three supreme presidents of the Pan-Macedonian Association.
That's very good, Nico.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you.
For more information about sponsoring or viewing the interview series, visit the Greek American Heritage Society of Philadelphia